Good morning, this is Heather from weddingsbyheather.com and the Flourish Academy. Today is Wednesday. I have a quick tip for you regarding focusing. But first, I wanted to tell you that I am a solution-oriented person. So when I am presented with a problem, I look for solutions that then become my options, and then I choose from those options. I'm also an if-then kind of person. You know, if I do this, then that happens. And I think this comes from my engineering background, my systematic approach to solving problems. But anyway, a few months ago, I had a client say to me, we were having that discussion on putting yourself out there more. And if you're just watching this video, you might want to watch the past two videos because they build on one another. But anyway, she had said to me that she wasn't really comfortable putting herself out there because she just wasn't feeling great about how she looked. So I said to her, okay, we have two options then. The solution, if you want to get more business, you have to put yourself out there, if then. And the solution is, your two options are either you get okay with the way that you look and you feel better and you put yourself out there, or you make a change. Okay, so in this case, she was not comfortable with her weight. So she said she had put on some weight and she didn't want to have photos taken of herself and put herself out there because she was not feeling like herself. So I very bluntly and point blank said, that leaves you with two options. If you want more business, then two options. Either lose weight or get okay with who you are and put yourself out there. And that's just the way it is. Not everybody loves the way that they look or feels completely comfortable putting themselves out there. But if you want more business, then you have to do it. And I don't care if you do it or not, but those are the options. So someone had commented, my friend Connie, about not feeling great in front of the camera, but you have to either do something to make yourself feel great in front of the camera, make a change, or just get okay with it. Those are your options, and then you make it happen. Okay, but I wanted to talk today about focus, recompose, because I mentioned that in my discussion on different types of focus points a couple of days ago. We had camera club last night. It was so fun, and I took a group aside and I demonstrated focus, recompose. So if you were there last night, then you heard this, but I thought I would share it here for those of you that could not make it. So there are two methods in order to take a photo where your subject is not in the center of the photo. So maybe you're going for the rule of thirds. You could move your focus point to where you wanted it, maybe it's on the left side, the right side, and take the photo, or you could focus, recompose. Focusing and then recomposing only works if you are in single servo mode. You cannot be in continuous servo mode because the camera will continuously hunt for a focus. So to focus, recompose, I have my camera here. Focus, recompose, I'm in single servo. I press halfway to lock the focus with my single focus point in the center. So the subject is dead in the center. I press halfway, I lock that focus. I do not take my finger off of the shutter button, and I ever so slightly pivot in order to change the composition, and then I take the photo. So I focus, tiny recompose. Okay, you have to be really careful doing this because you could break the plane of focus, especially if you're shooting wide open. And this would be more dangerous on maybe a prime lens, because if you were shooting 1.4 on the 51.4 and you focus, recompose, it's very easy to break the plane of focus. You have to be really careful. So you can't make major adjustments. You can't recompose, you know, in a large amount. It's a tiny, like, focus, recompose. Also, I taught this to a friend a few years ago, and she was super excited, and then she called me, I don't know, maybe a week or two later and said, Heather, all of my photos look awful, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They're all blurry. And I was like, oh no, can you bring your camera over? Like, we thought something was wrong with her camera, her lenses. I tested it, it looked fine, and I was really perplexed. And I thought, why don't you show me how you're photographing? Like, let me watch and see. So she was here at my house and Ella was here. So she took the camera and she said, I'm going to focus, recompose. So she pressed halfway to lock a focus, and then she did this. Watch carefully. She did this. Press halfway, lock a focus, and she went like this to recompose. She panned the camera. So she was panning, focusing, recomposing, and panning, rather than focus and recompose by pivoting. And when you pivot, that means the camera is on a fixed axis. Pivot versus pan. So that's when focus, recompose works. Again, if you are in continuous servo mode and you press halfway to lock a focus, and you recompose, your camera's going to grab the background because it's constantly hunting. And you should become one with your lens. I can hear it because more often than I would care to admit, I bump this switch. This is on the D700, and this is where it goes from continuous to single. And I'm almost always in single servo, but occasionally I'll bump it into continuous. But here's the thing, I'll go to take a photo of a bride, I'll press off way, I'll recompose, and I'll hear it go, it's hunting. That tells me it's in continuous servo. So I'm like, oh, all right, bumped it again, back into single. The only time I really use continuous servo is if I'm photographing a lot of fast motion. So that would be fast dancing and or processional and recessional, because the bride is walking towards me. And I need to get that, I need to make sure I'm locking a focus. Now, here's the thing. You could do it in single servo and instantly take the photo. You just can't hesitate when someone's moving. But to be safe, you know, continuous servo. I've done it both ways. I don't really have a personal preference in that case, the processional and recessional, because you can do it either way. But if you're going to focus recompose, a couple of tips. Make sure that you pivot your camera, not pan. Make the change slight, not big. And don't use continuous servo. So do you have any questions or any thoughts on that? I will say this, there is no, in this case, not a right or wrong answer. If you like to move your focus points on the back of your camera because you're more adept and fast at it, that is perfectly fine. I have a lot of friends that shoot that way and they don't focus recompose. I think the reason, excuse me, I got so hooked on focus recompose was because when I shot Canon, I only trusted that center focus point because it was that cross type. So refer to the previous videos. But because I only trusted the center focus point, it was the most accurate, it was the fastest, I just got into this habit of focus recompose. I did not trust those outer focus points. In theory, all of the focus points should work just fine and not be a problem. But in practice, we all know that that's different. So if you only trust your center focus point and you don't always want your subject dead in the center, then you should probably learn to focus recompose only in single servo mode. But if you want to move your focus points, I'm fine with that as well. So what are your questions or thoughts? Single. Chelsea, I do not use back button focus, and if you watch the previous two videos, you'll hear me say that I loathe it. That's an extreme response. I tried it at a wedding. I tried it at several sessions. I wanted to like it. I did not. However, if you look back at that thread, you'll see that a lot of people love it. Love it. Again, that's another thing that is a complete personal preference. Yeah, check out those videos. I talk about that a little bit more. I am getting ready for my mastermind to arrive. We have a meeting here at my home today. This is a group of people, business advisors that I work with. I'm really excited about. We talk about strategy. Chelsea says she just started using back button focus and she really likes it. And Alyssa says you always have to make sure your subject doesn't move if you're focusing recomposing, especially when shooting wide open. Absolutely. This works best when you're photographing fairly still subject, okay, completely still subjects. Dana says she almost always shoots in continuous because I do a lot of families with children moving. Probably not the best time to try this right. Correct. If you are accustomed to shooting in continuous servo, then focus recompose is probably not for you. Not in that particular environment. Again, it depends on what you're shooting. If you want to practice focus recompose, I recommend doing it with a person that will sit still or an object. Find an object that is stationary that you can practice with. And Alyssa says, right, it wouldn't work with kids. Well, here's the thing. The continuous with kids, it can work. This is the way I would approach that. So Dana, probably what you're doing is you have your finger on the shutter button, right, until everything is lining up and bam, you take the photo, right? You can use single almost the way you use continuous if you take the photograph immediately. If you are in single and you go and immediately take the photo, then you can lock the focus and get motion. I've done it. But if you want to hunt and wait until something is in position in the right, then yeah, it would be continuous. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? It's quiet. I see no comments. Okay, great. I guess that's it for today. We talked about putting yourself out there, and your options are either to get okay with who you are or to change something so that you are okay with who you are, and then focus, recompose. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.